What's going on? So word's been circulating about a Subaru lawsuit settlement which is awaiting final judge approval, and I'd like to use the entire ordeal as a cautionary tale. The lawsuit covers 2012 to 2017 WRXs with the EJ255 engine and STIs with the EJ257 engines. Those are the aging power plants still in use in the STIs today, not the more advanced direct injection FA20 engines in the standard WRXs. Now, I'll link in the description to some articles where you can find more detailed information on the lawsuit, but to summarize it, it states that the rod bearings on affected cars are not properly lubricated, and as a result they wear and fracture, sending metal shavings into the oil supply, and of course from there eventually those metal shavings cause engine failure, and that Subaru knew about it and didn't warn consumers. Now, I don't want to rip apart this particular lawsuit. Instead, I want to discuss the broader implications of some of the details within it and offer two important points of caution. The proposal agrees to extend affected vehicle warranties to 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first, and pay for any repairs done or needing to be done to the short block of affected vehicles ranging from $3,500 to $6,500. There's other entitlements to the settlement like towing, rental fees, etc. But my first point really has to do with what they will not cover under the settlement. Specifically, if you have one of these affected cars and you made any modification that in some way changed the engine control unit, you are excluded from this extended warranty settlement. That means that if they can prove you flashed your ECU with an access port or other tuning tool, or even if you had it professionally tuned, then your car will be excluded. I've mentioned this in other videos, but if you decide to tune your car, you're literally changing your ECU and affecting the car's air-to-fuel ratio, your timings, the car's fuel economy, acceleration, rev limits, etc. And usually the reason most people do it is for an increase in power, which brings the car beyond what the manufacturer designed, tested, and tuned it for. I would think that would make your car more likely to suffer from the issues alleged in the lawsuit. If your car has a failure and they prove you tuned it, they can deny your claim under warranty. If you buy a new WRX or STI, the moment you decide to modify your car for power, you're immediately taking and accepting that risk. Now, my car's tuned, and as an adult, I accept the risk that brings. But more importantly though, if you decide to have your car tuned, you have to do your research. Go to a reputable tuner who's been doing it for a while and who works on your particular vehicle. Experience is super important because of how intricate the parameters are that the tuners have to modify. Another option though is to take good care of your car during the warranty period and focus on supporting mods instead of power mods. You will get to really know your car, and if there are issues, you can correct them under warranty. When you do decide to add power, your car will already have the necessary support structure to be able to safely utilize the added power. Modding should be a slow and methodical process, unless of course you have the funds to buy new engines and transmissions as they blow. If Subaru really was selling cars with known defects, you'll be protected under warranty instead of having to defend the mods that you did and possibly being denied. Now, that said, if you were affected by this alleged defect, I would still try to get compensation even if you did mod your car, since there is an element of luck associated with these types of claims. My second piece of advice is to tread carefully when buying a used performance car. One of the plaintiffs bought the WRX used when the car had nearly 70,000 miles. Now, these cars are notorious for being abused, and let's also not forget that it's a small 4-cylinder engine. So when you abuse a small engine like that and constantly push it to its limits, it's only a matter of time before something serious goes wrong, especially if the engine is heavily modified. Now, I'm not saying that's specifically what happened to this guy, since I don't know all the details, but there's a lesson to be learned here. If you're buying a used car, you have to protect yourself. Check the recalls and TSBs. And by the way, I just released a video covering what those are and how to get them, so check that out if you're interested. Have a compression test done if you can, which will tell you a lot about the condition of the engine. Ask to see if you can look at the spark plugs. The condition of the spark plugs that haven't been changed recently can tell you if the car is running rich or lean. It can point to pre-ignition, advanced timing. All these can be symptoms of a car that's not maintained well or not tuned properly. Look for signs the engine has been modded. If the engine was tuned, research the tuner, get dyno sheets, ask for service records. This lawsuit deals specifically with contaminated oil, obviously a condition that can be made worse by putting substandard oil or not changing the oil frequently enough, which might actually be more frequently than the service intervals recommended in the manual. Remember that if you mod your car, effectively you're changing the maintenance schedule, and this is an added expense that you have to take into account. Of course, none of this absolves Subaru of their responsibility if they actually sold cars knowing about serious issues. But also keep in mind that car manufacturers are constantly being sued, and this is not necessarily groundbreaking and shouldn't dissuade you from getting the car that you want or even modding it if that's what you want to do, as long as you know the risks and take appropriate precautions. One final thought, as far as I can tell, as of today, the settlement is just a proposal waiting for final judge approval. So if you have one of these affected cars, you will likely be notified in the mail about your warranty extension. Just because you have one of these cars doesn't mean that your car will ever actually suffer a failure. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section, especially if you think you're affected or have already been affected or have had issues. And of course, consider subscribing for more content just like this and for detailed modding tutorials. Thanks a lot for watching, and take care.